Welcome back to Under Oath. Two attorneys arguing. Craig, start this argument.
Okay. Animal cruelty and abandonment in the time of a hurricane or natural disaster. That's the subject.
Scumbag.
A dog. Oh, this is terrible.
Scumbag.
A dog was found by Florida state troopers left tied to a pole on I-75 in a foot of water. Similarly, during Hurricane
Who would tie
Helena,
the dog up?
a video went viral of a wedding party freeing horses from the wedding venue after the farm owners told them they planned on leaving the animals tied up. The wedding party waded through chest-high water to free the animals who were almost underwater at this time. Animal cruelty. Is it cruel to a legal extent to abandon your animals during a natural disaster?
The fact is this, you're responsible when you own a pet. It's yours. It's yours. You can't just rawly abandon a creature, in a situation where their death could be imminent. I forget the legal purposes of it. There's a scumbag level when it comes to animals and children. It's disgusting. The reason we're hearing about it is because they know. When I say they, I'm talking the media knows how to really upset us. And anytime you do something against something that can't defend themselves, we're disgusted. The only thing that would have been bigger than that thing is if it was a kitten.
A kitten?
A kitten. We would have been even more, the poor kitty. And I don't know why we care more. I mean, if it was a snake, we wouldn't have cared.
We care about the cute animals.
I know.
The non-cute animals we don't care about.
Yeah.
Although, so let's say it's a snake, and the snake's tied up.
Yeah, I don't care.
And it can't slither away, and it's going to drown.
Now, there are some snake lover out there going, Jeff, you're heartless. See, these get hard for me.
We only get mad when it's something lovable and cute that we want to hug.
Yeah.
We don't get mad if it's like,
That's the problem we have. I'm disgusted with myself because I'm sitting here and I'm overwhelmed because I love this dog so much. I promise I can promise you during this hurricane, there had to be at least, I'd say conservatively, 50 to 100 domestic violence calls. I mean, that's what normally happens during tragedy and Super Bowls. A lot of domestic violence. But we don't care. I mean, when was the last time I actually watched a domestic violence case on the news? And I can promise you this, every day there, in every city, there are hundreds of calls and actually probably 50 actual badly beaten women. And we don't care anymore because we're so inundated with it. But you tie a dog to a fence, woo! I guarantee that story was in the news in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, that probably made news
all the way to
over
Texas.
Yeah.
They're reading about how somebody tied their dog to a fence.
What's the difference between animal cruelty and aggravated animal cruelty and the difference in sentences?
I guess it's the level of felony. I mean, one has to be a third-degree felony, which is the lowest. And then I think as you go forward, aggravated would probably be second or first. One is, the difference is tying somebody up to where somebody could get hurt or leaving a dog outside in the cold.
Well, I think
could be that.
You're talking about,
if you beat the dog with, let's say, a baseball bat, or you stick firecrackers in
Dave's
bad
talking
blood.
about the difference between neglect and abuse. That there's animal neglect is a lower level crime.
Yeah, third-degree felony.
You could probably be charged if that dog wasn't in such danger of drowning. That might have been just an animal neglect type of thing. If his attorney came up with a good enough defense, like, oh, I was coming back. They, like you said, they won't let dogs. So as soon as I got my good night's sleep in at the hotel, I was going to drive back here. And of course, my dog would still be here because no one would steal it, right? That's what you'd say to try and get out of the actual most serious version of that charge. But aggravated animal, it would be where you don't just abandon them to certain death, you inflict the death on them in a cruel way.
Or you inflict any damage
You pour
on them.
gasoline on them and then throw a match and watch them burn to death. That would be aggravated animal.
He's going to have an attorney. The attorney's going to go, you're going to do some time. Because you know when you're going to do some time? And Craig and I both know this. The easiest way to do no time is when nobody cares.
Yeah.
You could do some really bad stuff in a city where nobody cares and walk. New York City, man, you could basically chop a head off and they go, give them a class, But if you chop a head off here, oh Lord, I mean, they'll watch that trial on the national news for 6 weeks. You do it in North Carolina, you do it in New York, it happens all the time.
There's stories of people leaving Florida to go have these loot parties in New York.
Sorry, what is a loot party?
Well, you and a bunch of friends go up to New York and you pick a particular store.
Why am I asking? Oh, a loot store.
Loot party.
Oh, I thought you said Luke. And I'm like are people just going up to throw up there? And it's the two youths. That's what I thought you were doing.
A loot party.
You have looting parties in New York.
Looting parties, yeah. You travel up from other states because they're not going to do anything in New York. Like you go to an Apple store, maybe you and your 4 buddies go to an Apple store. Everybody puts on ski masks, snap all the apples off of their little safety chains, and out they walk with 28 brand new iPhones.
There's this line: if it bleeds, it leads. For me, that's so difficult because I think it feels like what people are into right now. There's a term, they call it murder porn, where we'll watch a whole show on a death, a case and how it transpires, but we won't watch anything that makes us happy for an hour. And us discussing it, our producer gave us this topic because that's her thing. She's into it. She's into the crime shows and everything else like that. I'm not. And you know how you and I are not into it? And you know the reason why? Because we did it.
We
represented these people. We argued these places. I actually was involved in prosecuting earlier in my career. So I have zero interest.
I defended a multi-hundred animal cruelty case myself.
It's disgusting.
It was a Greyhound Trek owner.
And I forgot what happened with that one.
One on appeal.
See? The law is the law, but it isn't always best for results.
I tell you what, didn't win in front of that jury.
No.
You want to talk about, I have done a lot of criminal cases when we did criminal law, child sex abuse stuff. You want to talk about a jury coming in and being biased and prejudiced before the case starts? Never have I seen it the way I see it when they announce what the charges are. Oh, this is an animal cruelty case. There were women crying in the jury panel before you pick them, before they even heard the first bit of evidence.
And that's the whole thing.
That doesn't happen when...
The reality is this, is that when people watch these things, they think they're stories. They think they're TV shows. And yes, they're on TV, but they're not fiction. They feel like fiction unless you're involved in this stuff. And I can tell you right now, when you're sitting there and you're looking across the table at somebody who's done this, and you're the one who has to fight for them, that's your job. Some people take their job seriously, some people don't. Craig and I know we had a group of public defenders who had our spots before us, didn't care 10 seconds for people. Craig and I fought. We believed in our form of justice and everything else like that. But I can tell you what, when we decided after 4 years of practicing criminal defense, we moved into property, that we weren't going to represent somebody else anymore, man, that black cloud lifted off me. I didn't feel an inch of regret. Every once in a while, I have to help somebody out. But when you're knee deep in that stuff 24/7, it's like drowning in tar.
You get jaded very quickly.
That's why a lot of criminal defense attorneys are broken people. And if you're out there and you're a criminal defense attorney right now, you're going to go, Jeff, you and I both know it affects your marriage. It affects your life. It affects your friendships, the people around you. You act differently. You think differently. You feel differently. And that's the tough thing about criminal law. The same thing about family law. When you handle divorces 24/7, you get jaded to the world around you. You get meaner. You're used to fighting 24/7.
You're used to being petty.
Yeah.
There is never a more petty group than family lawyers. I'm sorry.
We know a lot of
friends who do family law, but you want to talk about a group that is consistently
it's their job.
Petty just for the sake of being petty.
It's a job. It's a job. You can't get around it. Your client wants you to be petty. The other side's petty. There's no winners and losers in these cases, and that's the hard thing about practicing law. When you ask us our opinions and you want us to do certain things, the hard part is when I tell you the truth, you look at me and go, well, that's just you. And it's not. I've had, you and I know, we've had hundreds of attorneys work for us in our lifetime, hundreds. And in the end, it's a tough job. And some people, when they leave the profession, they go, yeah, I'm so much happier running a coffee shop. Hell, I'd be happy running a coffee shop. What do you do all day? The espresso machine went down.
You want to know what I want? I wanted to be a fireman. I want to be a fireman.
You just want to be on the calendar.
I just want to be a fireman. No, that'd be nice too. But no one's, I'm not responsible for the rest of anybody's life.
Yeah.
I just show up, put the fire out, maybe run in, rescue a kid or a kitten. I'm a hero.
I want to be
a fireman.
I was a combat medic in the military, and I realized I couldn't get into medicine because I couldn't live when somebody died on me. It stayed with me too long. The law is the same, but for me, my discomfort and my sickness is during the process. It's not afterwards. Afterwards, I did everything I could. And I'm like, listen, I couldn't have done any more. But medicine, the death lives with you. That's why doctors can be really cold, because they kind of have to be. Because you're dealing with something, you go, if he dies, and then you get sued for it, which, a lot of people come to us for medical malpractice cases. We have to say, listen, sometimes people die. Well, he was healthy when he went in. Well, he went in for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. And, what we do for a living isn't finding people money. It's taking care of people who were hurt by no fault of their own, and bad things happen. And it's our job to try to make things right. It's not our job to buy somebody a lottery ticket.